Welcome to Reading Wisdom by the author James Lynch and his ever dutiful note taker, Poeartistry. Hello, perceptive reader. This is James with Reading Wisdom, and I'm going to continue along with Babylon 5, the final reckoning, the fate of Bester. And we left off on chapter 1, you see, of this book. And so I just want to read a little bit more to you from chapter 1, picking up where we left off, which happens to be page 15 of this book. So we begin. Her eyes darted about like those of an animal seeking escape, but there wasn't any, not from him, and she knew it. Very well, she said at last. I'll do what I can. I knew you'll see things my way. Mr. Bester, you have a way of making certain there's no other way to see them. He nodded condescendingly. Another thing, he said as he rose. I'll need a supply of chlorine, ribosation. Ooh, now that's a word that I never seen except in this book. Back to the reading, but it stopped at the word of supply of chlorine, ribosaline, or saci. In other words, that's one of those original created words by the author himself, or the Babylon 5, as you know, crew and cast makers and all that other stuff. Anyway, I just wanted to say that since, remember, I am doing comments on this book, Comments of Bester. So if I make these interjections of thoughts, please bear with me and allow me to just share them. So anyway, let me get right back to the reading, okay? I'll pick right back up where it said he nodded condescendingly. Another thing, he said as he rose, I'll need a supply of the chlorine, untraceable, of course. Her face suddenly transfigured, and he felt a hint of pity. I'm sorry, she said. I didn't know. Save your sympathy for someone who needs it, Sophie. He replied more brusquely than he intended. Not much later, he retired to his room, but found that he wasn't tired enough for sleep. He decided to take a walk. After all, he had never been to the Maori colony, and if things went well, he would never be back. He selected a suit of black silk trill and a quadric shirt the same color, fastening the top button with a brass-colored overcap. He studied himself for a moment in the floor-length mirror. His hair was almost white, as was his beard, though his eyebrows still kept a reddish-brown tinge. His face seemed to have more lines each time he looked at it, but all in all, he looked pretty good for a man of 82, except for his hands, which jarred him every time. Pink, gloveless, naked, he flexed his right hand, the good one, when he was a teenager. He had nightmares now and then that he was out in public without his gloves. Telepaths didn't wear gloves anymore, so he couldn't either, not without being noticed. It made him feel dirty, but he mused, one adapted. A few moments later, he stepped from Sophie Herndon's rambling abode onto a quiet street. A few natives were out walking too. The air was cool, but not cold. Very pleasant, except for the faint smell of the sea. Fishy, but subtly different from any ocean on Earth. Mari was mostly water. From space, you couldn't really see anything else. From what he had seen of it, it was rather charming. It had character. The original settlers had been mostly Polynesian romantics bent on recapturing a lost past. Of course, you couldn't really do that, and children rarely inherited their parents' infatuations, especially when it meant living on grass houses on a planet somewhat chiller even at the equator than Earth. Still, the architecture has certain South Sea touches, and the street lamps resemble paper lanterns made in fanciful shapes, a legacy of the second wave of mostly Chinese immigrants. The people seemed pleasant enough and minded their business. Not a bad place to settle for a while until they found him alone. Maybe Sophie was right. Maybe going to Earth was too dangerous. The street took him to a dockside stretch, and as he walked up that, he felt the tickle of minds around him. Somewhere near, tentative lovers were embracing. A man on a boat was silently cursing his mangled nets. An old woman was remembering that the nights had been warmer when she was a girl. He smelled something cooking, and his stomach reminded him he hadn't eaten in a while. The lights of a restaurant appeared ahead, welcoming, and on impulse, he entered. Inside, it was warmer in temperature and in mood. The walls were of polished reddish wood, or no, maybe coral, or whatever passed for it here. Candlelight provided the only illumination. A girl at the door asked him to remove his shoes and showed him to a long, low table and mats on either side. No chairs. He sat cross-legged and his bones protested a bit. There were others further down the table who nodded at him as he sat. He nodded back. The girl brought him a sweet, mildly alcoholic drink that tasted like a sake with a green tea aftertaste. It wasn't bad, so he took a few sips. I'm stopping right there, perceptive readers. Here it is. I got the sneezes want to come up and everything else during this reading, and so I hope that you were able to still get a copy of this book. So as you follow along, you can certainly see and even say some of these words smoother that I'm not able to say or pronounce in the way that I can do it justice. It's amazing how when you read a book without having to read out loud, no wonder these books can be read so much faster than when you're reading them out loud, huh? All the same, this is just for the enjoyment of the experience of another book that you may have not heard about before I brought it up, in these podcasts of Reading Wisdom, and then to continue to give you an idea of different writing styles and scenery, etc. You see? So anyway, this was comments on Babylon 5, The Fate of Bester, number 6. Yes, this is number 6 that I've done out of this book. And you just have a very wonderful, wonderful day.